So, Todd Howard did a podcast earlier today and he was asked quite a few questions, sort of specific questions from viewers and from the audience, asking about certain features in the game. Will things be in the game? Will they not? Now, obviously he's trying to build the hype and keep the hype going for Starfield, but he's also trying to be very careful of what he talks about. He doesn't want to spoil too much. He wants to keep us excited, keep us interested in the game, but he doesn't want to spoil it, doesn't want the whole thing to be revealed before the game even comes out. So certain questions he kind of danced around and he didn't give us a nice clear answer, but others he did actually say yes and no. So I'm going to go over some of the most interesting things that he talked about now. So one of the first things he was asked was, will there be fishing in Starfield? And the answer he gave was, it suggested that there'll be fish, alien fish in water that you'll be able to kill, but if you're thinking about standing there with an actual fishing rod and standing fishing, then that's not going to be in the game. He talked a bit more about the alien creatures on the planets, and he was saying that actually out of the 1,000 planets that are in the game, only around 10% of those actually have life on them. And on these planets with life, some of the creatures will be passive, kind of like herbivores, like cows and vegetarian kind of creatures, and then there will also be like aggressive predator type creatures as well. And you may even come across situations where the creatures are fighting amongst themselves, the predators are attacking the herbivores. And he mentioned an example of where he came across a load of creatures that were dead, and he was like, what's happened here? Why are all these creatures dead? And then it turns out that there's like a more dangerous creature in the area that you've got to watch out for. Now that then leads us on to, we've seen this skill where you can sort of pacify and control aliens, and people were thinking, well, if you can control them, does that mean that you can make them your mount and that you can ride around the planet on them? And he's clarified that no, there won't be any mounts. You can't ride on the creatures like that. He also said that there won't be any vehicles in the game, and the whole sort of game is designed around exploring on foot and walking everywhere. But then you've also got your boost pack, and there are skills that you can invest points in that are all centered around your boost pack that will then make that more viable for sort of getting around the planets potentially quicker, so you can do longer jumps. Lower gravity planets, you'll almost be able to fly around the planet, so you won't actually need a mount or a vehicle because you'll be able to use your boost pack instead. So going back to the 10% of planets have life in the game, so that means there's going to be sort of a mixture of some planets have got life and then others are just kind of barren, empty planets, unexplored planets that are just going to have resources. So you're going to scan them, you're going to find that they've got resources, you're going to go down onto the planet, you're going to explore around. There may be certain points of interest and things on there, but there won't actually be alien life on the planet. But they said they were trying to balance it by having some of these planets that are kind of full of life with all these different biomes and different creatures, flying creatures, creatures walking around, but then you've got other completely barren planets that are ice or desert or whatever, and it will just give you this feeling that you're out there on your own and that you're isolated and there's no one else around, and that from an exploration point of view that you're the first person to potentially set foot on this particular planet, and you're walking around and you're walking somewhere that no one has set foot before. And he also mentioned with the skills, if you've noticed on some of the other videos where they're looking through the skills and clicking on the different ones, that they appear like a little patch that looks like a clothing patch, and he said that this is actually what they are, that all of the skills show as like a little patch or a badge, and this can be sewn onto your spacesuit. Now I've had a look through some of the Starfield Direct video. I can't find an example where you can actually see any of these patches on your spacesuit, only the constellation sort of symbol on your shoulders, but he suggested that these patches can be attached to your spacesuit, so there must be some option somewhere to go in and customize your spacesuit and choose which of these skill badges you want to put on your spacesuit and where you're going to put it, and then it'll be visible on your character while you're playing. Now obviously a massive part of the game is the shipbuilding. And one of the questions was, can you modify and upgrade all of the ships? So if you capture an enemy ship and you manage to take it back to a shipyard, will you be able to modify that ship and then use it yourself? And the answer was yes. Apparently all of the ships in the game are all made using the same kind of ship builder that the player will be able to use. So if you capture an enemy ship and you take it back, you have to register the ship, which we've not seen much detail of yet, but he suggests that will cost a lot of credits. So you're going to have to register the ship before you can then upgrade or modify it. And it's not clear whether you'll be able to take something off a new ship and add it to one of your existing ships maybe, or whether you just have to kind of buy and sell individual parts on that ship. but he did stress that you have to buy the ship, you have to register the ship with credits to be able to modify it, which is kind of to control the economy a bit. But he's saying that the ship kind of upgrading and building will be very expensive, as we've seen in some of the videos, and you'll also need to actually level up some of your skills around the shipbuilding before you can unlock the ability to add certain things to your ships and to do certain upgrades. So he's saying this isn't something you'll be jumping into straight away at the beginning of the game. You'll get your basic ship, and that's the one you'll be using at first until you can level up your character to unlock the new skills, and until you can collect enough credits later on to be able to do the buying of the new parts and the upgrading of the weapons. He was also saying that it doesn't sound like you'll be able to actually modify the interiors of the ships by kind of moving stuff around in a very granular way and placing things on tables and whatever, whereas each kind of module that you bolt onto your ship will have sort of a set layout within that module. So it's more the layout of how you arrange all the different modules, sort of clicking them together will change how the interior of your ship is laid out, but within each kind of module you won't be able to modify it at a really granular level. And then that's a similar idea with the outposts as well, that these will require a lot of credits. They require you to have collected a lot of resources to actually build the outpost, but once you get to that point where you can build multiple outposts, you'll potentially have outposts on certain planets that have got the certain resources that you need. Then you'll be able to set up these trade routes between your different outposts. So whether that means you'll have sort of a home base, a home outpost, and you'll be able to ship all the different materials and resources that you need from your other outpost to kind of your home outpost, and then use them for doing your research and for modifying your ships. But again, this is going to be expensive. It's going to need skill upgrades, so it's not going to be something you're doing straight away. It's going to be something that comes a bit later in the game. And then on to modding. As we probably expected, all the Bethesda games have all been massively sort of allowing you to add mods to the game. It's all built around that, and they actively encourage you to create mods. So this is no different. They've thought about modding from the start. The whole game is designed that modders will be able to go to town as soon as the game is out and add stuff to the game, modify how systems and things work within the game. And with all those planets, 1,000 planets, and a lot of them, 90% of them are barren, kind of empty planets, there's almost this blank canvas for modders just to go wild and do whatever they want. And he said that there's a potential for some modders to make this their career by making paid mods. So what do you think of all this new information? I mean, it's a little bit frustrating that he sort of skirts around some of the questions. He won't give us any concrete answers, but I do understand that he's trying to balance it out and not spoil too much, but give us little bits of information. He wants us to play the game when it comes out. So what do you think about all this information? Is there anything I've missed? Is there anything you want more detail on? What are you hoping to see? What are you hoping to have revealed between now and the release of the game? Let me know in the comments.